Hello, and welcome back. This video is about creating Grim Dawn Mastery Tree style functionality in Unreal 5.4 Blueprints. And a special thanks to all my supporters. Thank you for helping me help others. For the Grim Dawn Mastery Tree style, we're going to go through the same process as with the Diablo 2 Skill Tree style, calling out minimal differences as we go. So we're going to start by creating a new widget. We'll call this WBP Mastery Tree. And then I'm going to just duplicate the skill tree button because that is almost the same. Call this WBP Mastery Tree Button. So in here, we just need to change some variables. First of all, this obviously needs to be Mastery Tree instead of Skill Tree. So this doesn't yet exist, and this needs to be re-dragged in. So Control drag that, convert. The other change is that the prereq IDs, we can rename this to prereq ID and switch it back to a single. Because Mastery Trees and Grim Dawn and the previous Titan Quest the engine was based on, there's no double or triple prereqs. Now, since this is no longer an array, you can't just check to see if it's empty. It has to have an initial value. So we'll hit compile. We'll set the prereq ID default to -1, which then we can check to make sure that there is no prereq. And might as well just set the ID default to -1. All right, in the mastery tree, similarly, we're going to set this to our desired on screen. Again, custom on screen. We're going to make it 1600 by 800. Similar to the other one, we want this a canvas panel. And the panel itself needs to be a variable. We're going to throw in an image for the background. This we just want to Control Shift and click on Fill. Change this to a darker color. We're going to want a progress bar. We'll call this Mastery Bar. We want to throw this down at the bottom. Just make this 100 tall. Should want that over a bit. Similarly, we need just a normal button. We'll call this Mastery Button. Make that square. Throw that down here. We can create our two text values similarly to the skill tree. This one will be our points text. We'll set this text initially to 99, size to content, centered. Just throw this on the button. It's the number of points we have available. Our points spent works differently. This is one of the biggest changes between the skill tree and the mastery tree. We'll just call this mastery points. And this is how many points we've spent in the actual mastery bar. And lastly, of course, we need our actual buttons. So for this, we'll just make them 100 by 100. just simulate a little bit of what Grim Dawn ones look like. So our ID for the first one, of course, will be a 0. There's no prereq. The min rank is 1. And then we can duplicate a few times. Throw this one down here. Let's say we have a passive that shoots off the main skill. So that's enough to simulate the logic at least. So we'll set all the IDs. So that was 0. This one 1. Make this one 2. It has a prerequisite of 0. This will have a min rank of 5. This one will make an ID 3. The prereq was also 0. And a min rank of 10. This one had the ID of 1, that's fine. Min rank, yeah, okay. So this one will be 4. Prereq is 1. Min rank is also 10. And max level, it is different in Grim Dawn, but we'll just leave all this the same. Actually, no, let's make this one a 1. Test that functionality as well. And the order's a little messed up. But that's fine. You just drag it. And of course, in the actual tree, there would be, a number of other active and passive skills. So in our graph, we want a variable for our buttons. Similarly to before, we'll make this a map from integer to WBP Mastery Tree Button. And then we want variables for our points. This is an int that is singular, and our mastery points. We can start our initial points at some higher value for testing. So we'll create the same functions we had previously. This will be button clicked. This takes in the input of a button, which will be a type of WBP Mastery Tree Button. That means in our Mastery Tree Button now, we can call button clicked and swap this out here. Our increased level functionality here does not change. It's still that the button itself has a level and a max level. It gets incremented and sets the text. Returns true when that's all valid. So in our button clicked, same as before, we have our points. As long as that is greater than 0. We can get our passed along button and call increase level. As long as that is returning true, we then decrement our points value. And the difference here is that we're not reducing points spent, or in this case, mastery points. And lastly, we'll call our update tree. And update tree, we can start with a sequence again. We'll get our buttons map. We need the values, so we can iterate through them. use a local variable is enabled of type Boolean, which we will initially set to true. So as long as we have mastery points that are greater or equal to the min rank in the button, and I forgot again, this needs to be setting to is enabled. And then that value is used in the branch. And as long as our buttons prereq is not equal to -1, could also do greater than equal to 0. We have a branch. And if it has a prereq, we can just do this here because it's a little simpler. As long as we find this prerequisite in our buttons keys, then we can validate that its level is greater than 0. We take our buttons level, and if that is greater than 0, we can set this to our is enabled. So a little different logic than the D2 one. As a reminder, if the prereq is set in your design, but it's not actually found in your buttons, this right here would where you might want to put an error debug, letting you know that your design is missing something. And then lastly, in the loop here, we want to get the button, and we're setting it enabled based on our Boolean. And the second pin of our sequence here, going way down here to set. Oh, I shouldn't have dragged that yet because I need the control, which I forgot to set as variables. So both of these need to be variables. We have our points text. We want to set the text of our mastery points text, same thing. And the values will be our points. I think I just messed that up because they now have the same name. Let's check if I set that to int. Interesting. Did I not name it? Oh, I didn't. Okay, let's name that mastery points text. And that's why we put the type on the name sometimes. Mastery points, that should be text. All right, that should work fine. need to be quite so far down. And lastly, we had our mastery bar. We can set percent. And for this, we can use our mastery points. Convert this to float. Just do a division. We use the 50 that Grim Dawn has for its max. Mostly again in our event graph under event construct, we want to grab our canvas panel, call get all children. So we can iterate through that. For any children that are Mastery Tree buttons, we first want to fill up our buttons map. Again, I don't want to do that. I want to take this one, get the ID, now since we're actually filling our map with the ID from the button, we could have used an array, but then every time you iterate through that array, you would have to use that ID. So it is a design that could work fine. We just didn't do it that way. And then we're setting this to self. And when the loop is completed, we call update tree. All right, let's try that out. We need to update our first person blueprint so that we are using the other one. So let's just do create widget of the WBP mastery tree. All right, so everything starts out as disabled. Put a point in our mastery bar. Realize that I didn't hook up any code to that. So go back into this, find our, oh, wrong one. Find our button. It's mastery button here. We want to add an event for that. We're going to check to make sure that our points are greater than 0. As long as they are, we're going to then decrement the points. And call update tree. So I did that, and of course I forgot to increment the mastery points. All right, so when that became 1, then these prerequisites are met. That's all good. Add another 4 points. That would be the prerequisite for this. Actually, just go right up to the 10. Prerequisites for that. So this one gets hit. Both the prerequisites are now met for those, and similarly, that one there. We can add a point up here, and we had a maximum of 1, so clicking that again has no effect. And of course, same thing for these, it only goes up to 10. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video and would like to see more, you know what to do. And if you would like to support this channel, watch these videos 2 weeks early, or just want to download the project files, you can do so through my Patreon linked below.